You want some great coffee to bring to your coffee hour for after liturgy? Or how about just to drink every morning on your own? When I do drink coffee, this is the only brand I drink, Fox & Sons Coffee. They believe over there, my man Stephen Fox believes that coffee should come with a great story. His began on Saturday mornings with his dad, early breakfasts, good conversation, and a shared cup of coffee that sparked a lifelong passion. Those memories shaped who he is and inspired him to start this company, Fox & Sons Coffee, not just for the love of the coffee itself, but to honor his father and pass something meaningful to his two sons. Now, he's inviting you and me to be part of that legacy. If you guys need gifts, if you just love coffee, and like I said, maybe you just want to bring some to the parish for coffee hour, now is the perfect time to try these handcrafted, family-inspired blends. We've got a code for you, BUCK15 at checkout, BUCK 15 at checkout. Get you 15% off all orders over $35, so you can save big and sip better coffee than you may be used to. This coffee, again, is made with love, roasted with purpose, shared with family. Fox & Sons Coffee, brewed from the heart.
This is a Dissident Media production. DissidentMedia.net.
You're tuned into the
Counterflow
Podcast, home of dissident voices,
unapproved opinions.
but you gotta get ready.
You ready?
Now here's your host,
and humble narrator,
Buck Johnson. Let's go!
What's up, you guys? Welcome back once again to the Counterflow Podcast. As always, I am still your host and humble narrator, Buck Johnson, coming to you out of Lockhart, Texas. Well, this interview was done in Lockhart, Texas. I, as this drops, will be on my way to Moscow. So I won't be in the live chat. Forgive me there. But this is a great episode with a great person, a friend of mine, Nina Morris. Until I knew her and spoke about this topic, sadly enough, I didn't know anything about the foster care system in America, largely speaking, but specifically, she was in the foster care system in our state here in Texas, all 18 years of her childhood life. And it's eye-opening, frightening, and alarming, some of the things that she experienced. She's an Orthodox Christian, so thank God she's found her way home, so to speak. I think you guys are going to find her to be humble and kind and very candid about the experiences that she went through. And I'm appreciative that she did this interview. So without further ado, my friend, Nina Morris, welcome to the show, ma'am. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for asking. I'm happy to be here and to speak with my favorite ortho bro.
Wow. Yes, I got the title. Well, it's your first time on here. Is it your first time on a podcast? Did you do the other one we were talking about yet?
No, this is my first podcast. In fact, I have been asked to do interviews and be on shows many times for my story. And you are the first time I've said yes to it. You and Elisa.
Thank you. Well, first, we're going to talk a lot about you, of course, and your experiences. Let's just get a brief intro of who you are. Anything that you want to say that's somewhat pertinent to what we're going to be talking about. Go ahead.
Let's see. Who am I? I'm an Orthodox Christian first, a lover of God and a lover of people. And I'm a single mom. I have 4 amazing children who are my life, and I adore them. I am a Sunday school teacher. I'm also in the world a property manager. So I manage apartment homes, and I really like it because I get to meet, all these different personalities and people. I guess that's me.
Okay. Well, also, one thing that we can sort of get into now, I suppose, how were you raised? How would you describe it?
So I was raised in the Texas foster care system. So I had 40 different homes. And I love that number because I am a symbolic thinker, and 40 is a big Orthodox number. And I feel like it's a God wink. But so I got to experience an array of what the foster care system has.
Okay, I have a question about differentiating a few terms because until I knew your story, I didn't know much about foster care stuff at all, to be honest. Foster home versus orphanage. What is that difference?
That's a good question. And there's different types of foster homes as well. But so one would be in a family environment. So you're in a house. There's typically either a single parent or a mother and dad that run the home. And that would be considered a foster home. And a foster home would be a temporary placement for a youth in care until they could find like an adoptive or a permanent home. So a foster would be temporary placement in a family setting. And then an orphanage is, it can be a facility, kind of like a hospital setting. It can also be a home that is set up where staff take shifts, and you either have all girls or girls and boys that live together in these homes. And there's emergency ones where you stay for 30 to 60 days. And then there's long-term residential treatment centers where you would stay for like a year and on.
So when you bounce around foster home to foster home, what's a kind of a typical reason of like, all right, I'm leaving this one, now I'm going to this one? What were sort of those reasons for that?
Yeah. So it could be policies. So a lot of the foster home or a lot of the homes that you could go to could be an emergency treatment center, right? And so they're set up to keep kids for 30 to 60 days and then move you on somewhere to a permanent one. But what happened, at least in the 90s, for me, was there was no beds, right? And so you would get bounced around. Yeah, there was no beds. There was not enough foster homes. There wasn't enough orphanages. And so there was a period of time where we would be placed either at the CPS office, where you would sleep in their office until they would find you a place. You would go bouncing around from these emergency 30-day placements until they could try to find you a place. And then they did something new in the 90s, which was kind of fun at first. They actually opened up mental hospitals for the beds. And whenever we were younger, it was kind of cool because they would only put us in really high quality, beautiful mental hospitals where people were like maybe getting off of drugs on one side of the ward, right? So we would see them through like plexiglass, but not really. We were separated because we were there just for the bed. And I remember my first placement like this. It was in Dallas. It was a high rise and it was luxurious. I had a maid and like a butler and like a buffet for each meal. It was beautiful. And I had floor to ceiling windows and a view of downtown Dallas. It was stunning. And then as time progressed, it stopped being these beautiful placements and just being like a state hospital. And you'd be mixed in with the crazy people.
You would?
Yeah, you would. Not at first. It took a couple years and enough desperation to find beds for these foster kids before that started happening. But then soon you were just one of the group. Yeah.
Whoa. I've been on medical calls in a state hospital. That's not super conducive for a young person.
It's interesting.
Yes, it is.
It's interesting. I have some pretty bizarre memories.
So were you always in one city, or did they even put you to different cities and locations when you got moved?
I was mostly in Texas. I was in Dallas, and I was in Wichita Falls and Austin, and a place in
Okay.
Stevensville. So the way it kind of works is the federal government kind of gives each state, permission to do their own foster care system. And so you kind of remain in that state for the most part. And there's different rules and laws for each state. And so Texas is actually one of the states, I'd say, that has some bonuses for foster kids. Like at least we used to give our first foster kids who age out like free college, but not every state does that.
Okay. What sort of, did you have friends? Were you able to keep the same friends? Or I suppose it's sort of, they might move on at some point, or you move on. Did you have a group of friends were you able to even keep?
No, not really. I'm trying to think if I ever ran into the same people again. Not for my younger years. Now, when I was in my teens, I stayed longer term at the orphanages. So I had deeper relationships, I guess, kind of with those people. And I still keep in contact with some of them now as an adult. But when I was growing up, no, it was really, a lonely journey. I didn't have friends or one caseworker.
Forgive me if some of these questions sound silly almost, but I've never had the opportunity to ask someone who's been through these sort of things. And so it's just things I've been wondering about. When you go to a foster home, what was a typical, I know you said 30 to 60 days. Sometimes there's rules where they have to then move on. What was a typical time period, let's say that you were with a family?
I mean, I wasn't with families for very long, like a couple months.
Okay.
And it's hard because I moved around so often. I barely remember school. I don't have a memory for the most part, especially of the younger, elementary years of a particular teacher, because a lot of times I didn't even go to school because it takes time to get you registered and in a class. And if you're in, one of the emergency homes, you don't go to school for the first 2 weeks because they're evaluating you. So I guess I don't have an easy answer there.
Okay. One thing from my job, we make medical calls, of course, on people, and it's fascinating to go and see what people live like. Because when the fire department comes to your house for an emergency, you're not setting the table and cleaning and getting ready for your unexpected guest. I assume if a foster kid comes to a house, maybe the family would try to clean up or whatever. I don't know, maybe not. Did you witness a litany of different styles of people, basically?
Yeah, and different cleaning styles too. That's a good point. And it's cool because you get to see who people really are whenever you pop in unexpected, and it's beautiful, kind of. So I did enter into homes where they were prepared, and you can always tell. They would have a presentation mask and a show. Usually their house was clean. They had a big smile. They may have a sign, which was cute sometimes, to drive up to a house and have a welcome sign or something like a teddy bear on your bed that you're going to sleep in. And then sometimes you walk into a messy house with kids running around or teenagers just walking through. And And then
I want to ask you about traits that you notice with families. Because you had an outsider's look while kind of being on the inside with them for a short period of time, people's style of how they love their kids' styles of how they love one another, parent styles of how they love one another. What are some of the things you picked up from that, or just noticed, let's say even?
Well, I'm going to sound racist, but
That's okay.
some of the things that I noticed in care were like nobody wanted to be in a religious home because you knew if you were going to if you were going to a religious home, there would be a lot of rules and people would be harsh with you. And it was almost suffocating. So we knew like whatever you do, hopefully they're not religious because that's scary. And then, I was in a Panamanian foster home. It was a Black foster home, but they were from Panama. So they spoke Spanish. They danced salsa almost every night. They had ethnic food, and it was a lot of fun, a lot of playfulness in that family. I had a lot of fun with them. And they were very family oriented. And so when I was growing up, I wanted like a Spanish family because they were very culturally inclusive of even the stranger. You felt like included, and they were sensitive to new people. And it was really nice.
We've got a new sponsor. It is Perfect Spiral Capital. This is the infinity banking concept. Break free from the system. Perfect Spiral Capital helps you build wealth on your terms outside of the control of the corporate banking cartel and the state-manipulated markets. Invest like a dissident, a true dissident. Take ownership of your financial future with strategies designed for those who refuse to be cogs in the machine. No handouts, no bailouts, just real results. Opt out, build wealth. The state inflates your savings away while Wall Street rigs the game. You guys know this. Perfect Spiral Capital helps you stack real assets and create lasting independence. Go to perfectspiralcapital.com/counterflow and get a special offer for fans of this show. Again, that's perfectspiralcapital.com/counterflow. So you said the orphanage would sometimes be like, I think you said a treatment center of sorts. These are the places, I take it from knowing your story, broadly speaking. Is this where they had like therapy sessions and doctors in there to sit with you? And I want to ask about, I have been thinking a lot lately about therapy, not me getting it. Is it actually helpful? Are there legitimate therapy forms of therapy? Because there's a lot of them that don't seem legitimate. I have known people that have said, oh, I have a therapist, or I do this with therapy. And I saw a meme the other day and it said, the worst person you've ever met has therapy words they use. And it's like, yes. So it makes me think like, does it work? So I want to ask you, I liked your reaction to that too, because I know it's a hot button issue with some of the buzzwords. We're going to get to that though. What were the therapy models like? Were any of them useful? Some of them seem kind of like quackery to me, but I'll let you talk.
I have so much to say about this. It's hard for me to figure out where to start. Like, should I start with my first memory?
Yes, that's a good place.
Okay. My first memory was when I was 9 and I was in like a higher scale hospital, but I was there for the bed, right? And it wasn't just me. There was like maybe 8 other kids that we were all on our special ward for emergency placement, but we weren't really crazy. So we had a special ward and we were treated really well. But we were in the hospital and they needed to keep us occupied. So they kind of had us follow a similar structure, I guess, as the other people would be having. And so we would kind of have group therapies but not intense ones. And I remember there was this movie that had came out about, I think it was called Sybil, but it was about someone who had multiple personality.
Yes.
And I remember the staff in this home being so excited, and they were interviewing all of us. They had us watch this movie, and then they were interviewing all of us to see if any of us had any of these traits, right? And I remember thinking it would be so funny if I, pretended that I had them. So
yes,
I don't know why I did that, but I remember when they were talking to me, I was like, yeah, I could have that. And they gave me this journal, and I would like write with one hand one thing, and then with the other hand, I would write as a different personality, just to play with them, because I thought it was kind of funny. And I didn't, I guess, know that it was serious. I didn't believe that they would think that it was real. And then, so that went on for like a week. And then I was like, okay, I'm just playing. But I just remember it being all the rage. And then they figured out like, oh, she's just trolling us. And, then it was just a normal. I don't know why I'm sharing that. But I just remember that being really big, and us being in these groups. And then, and that wasn't like a really serious therapy anyways, because I was just there for a placement. Later on, whenever I went, when I was in a teen, I was placed in a residential treatment center. And that's when our real therapies began. And it was pretty intensive.
What sort of therapy? For one, why did they think that you needed it? And two, what sort of therapy was it?
So why did they think I needed it? Because, okay, by that time I was 11 years old. I had been through several different foster homes. And it's the way the system works is, and it still works like this, even if you're not in foster care, if you're just a parent and you're trying to get funding from the government wants to see that you qualify. And the higher level of care you are, the more money that placement can get, right? So it's in the placement's benefit and kind of in your benefit that you have a lot of issues, right? And so each placement I went to, when they were trying to qualify for funding for me, my file started to say really intense things, right? And then my placements grew. So it was kind of unfortunate. But whenever you look at a file of a kid, if they've been through several homes and they have some harsh things written about them, you don't think, oh, maybe they wrote that so that they can get funding, right?
Right.
Think,
well, I wouldn't think that, but yeah, apparently.
It's true.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it was like, obviously we all know now the hospitals during 2020 were heavily financially incentivized to say like, this person has COVID, and it's like cha-ching, and then we can also get the numbers to go up, and then the thing in the corner of the TV on CNN just shoots up higher, and people panic. It's just, it all worked in their favor, I suppose. What were they looking back now? The therapy that you were getting, was it just, for lack of a better phrase, just them talking to you, asking you questions? Where you said, I think that someone tried to hypnotize you or some kind of goofy stuff like that too, even.
Yeah, I have these memories of different things. So when I was 11, I went to like an orphanage with other girls, and the staff there were in school, and they were learning new therapy things in school, and so they would try them out. And I remember different things that they would try. I remember them going through a phase where they were trying to hypnotize us. And then I remember one of my therapists saying, Nina, you came into foster care when you were 3 days old. Your mom didn't hold you enough. So what you need is, I think if you crawl and turn under my desk and I pretend to give you birth and you just crawl out, this will give you like this motherly bond. And I think it'll be really good for you. And so here I am. I think this was when I first got there. So I was a little more open-minded to it. And I remember being under her desk and coming out. I'm like, okay, let's see what this does. And so that's some of the things that they would try. They would try this new thing where they would snap in your ears and then tap on your knees. And there was something about activating both sides of the body or the brain. And while at the same time, you would visualize your life. And they were trying to say that they could change your brain patterns by doing this. But I think for therapy to work, I think these methods could work, maybe. They sound crazy, right? Maybe not the hypnotizing, because you need consent from the other person. And when you're doing therapy with someone, you need to do it with like real reverence, respect, and compassion. You can't do it as a form of manipulating them. It's not like Play-Doh where you can put someone together a certain way.
And then you encountered a lady that explained, I mean, this is sort of an old school military tactic and boot camp where they want to basically destroy you mentally so then they can create you in their own mold. Can you talk about that lady?
Yeah, she's the same lady who told me to crawl out from underneath her desk.
Okay. Well, that's how she first started recreating you. Baby Nina out from under the desk.
You know what's weird about that is that was when I first got to that placement. And I had never been through these type of therapies before. I had moved around, but I had never had anyone try to mess with my mind or anything. I was just a guest in a million people's houses, and it was kind of fun. This was the first time I was having people really play with my mind and do these things. And I remember it having an effect. I wish it didn't, but I remember thinking to myself and sharing with her, because I'm kind of an honest person. I always have been. And I shared with her like, hey, does this mean like you're going to adopt me? Like I had this fantasy. Now that I crawled out from underneath your desk, maybe you'll love me. Maybe you'll be my mom. And I remember I got in so much trouble for having that idea. I remember a long therapy session talking to me about boundaries and how a therapist can never be someone's mom. And I was, like I said, I was 11. I was really young. And I remember it kind of hurt my feelings, but at the same time, I understood like, oh, there's this sterile thing that goes on between us. And there's this line. And I understood that,
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, what was your question?
Well, then, but she did go on to do the like drill sergeant tactic thing to break you. What was that about? Breaking you down?
Yeah, well, she suggested it to me. I was the type, I saw them doing things to the other kids, and I saw the other kids, like they would come in and be normal, playful children. And then a month later, they would have like this fog over their eyes, or their personality it was like the Kanye West, where all of a sudden someone else is there or no one's home. And I got so angry at them, and I used to troll them. And I think because of that, I kind of was targeted a little bit more, because I wasn't going to like open up and trust them and play mind games with them. And if I saw them doing it to someone else, I would call them out or try to protect that person. And so I remember her telling me that was a new therapy. Actually, I think, Paris Hilton, she in one of the interviews I saw, she talked about them also trying to do that with her. It was a new popular thing that they were trying out on on kids, I guess. And yeah, word for word, she said, what you do is you try to break someone as much as you could until they crumble into pieces, and then you could put them back together the right way. And those are almost her exact words.
And forgive my ignorance, I think I know the answer to this, but I don't follow pop culture so much. Paris Hilton, was she a foster kid?
So what happened with Paris Hilton, I guess she had some behavioral issues where maybe she was skipping school or doing drugs and alcohol. I don't remember exactly, but her parents put her in a residential treatment center.
Okay.
And the one that she had was in like the mountains somewhere. And not only did they do crazy therapy to you, but they would starve you and they would have you like in the heat working with other kids. And my heart broke for her, and I knew exactly what she was talking about because it's traumatic to have these things, and it's the little things that add up. Like I remember one of our structures was called pillow structure. So we had to be in pajamas, no shoes allowed, barefoot, and sit on pillows, right? For days and weeks and weeks. And you had to look at a white wall. And
what?
Oh gosh, for days and days and days. It was so hard for me to stare at a white wall. And on top of that, you would be staring at a white wall on a pillow on the floor, and they would give you papers to write. And one of the papers that I would have to write was called No Speak. And so here I am, again, 11. I had a 10-year-old. So I keep thinking about that because I can't even imagine her staring at a wall or going through any of these. It's so unnatural for a human being. And you talked about the army. It almost feels like torture. At least that's what it felt for me. Just looking at a wall was very hard for me. And we would have to write these papers. The one on No Speak, they would be like, you have 10 papers on No Speak. Each page had to be 75 words or more about why you shouldn't speak. And so I remember being young and trying to be clever with it and being like, I shouldn't speak because, words pollute the air and we have to, have respect for staff. And, but what does that do to your brain as a child when you're developing and you every single day are writing pages and pages about why you shouldn't speak? And you're looking at a white wall for hours and weeks. Like it was very hard on my heart and my brain, to be honest.
Yeah.
The isolation.
We've got some new shirts, Counterflow with Buck Johnson on the front pocket, on the back. A beautiful graphic with, of course, dissident voices and unapproved opinions. You can see this on the YouTube version of the show, of course. We're putting the graphic up now. $30 flat fee. $30 gets you the t-shirt. The PayPal address is buck@counterflowpodcast.com. That is my PayPal. You can send $30 that method. Send me your address and the size you want. We have sizes small through 2XL. Again, sizes small through 2XL. Go to PayPal, $30, buck@counterflowpodcast.com. Give me your address in there and the t-shirt will be yours. Did they, I know the answer to this. I think they still do it. Did they test experimental psych meds on foster kids?
All the time. If you follow the money, all the time. And they're not ADHD approved. And it's legal. When you're
They're not FDA
mom
approved,
and
you mean?
they're
not FDA approved? Yes.
Mm-mm.
Is that what you're saying?
You can.
Okay.
It's legal to give foster kids those meds. Which means that they haven't been studied. We don't know the long-term side effects of them. And it's back again to the money. Just like our files, if our files say that we are the worst of the worst, financially, the placement benefits from it, right? Also, if you're on stronger medicine, not only does the place benefit from it, but the doctor, the psychiatrist who has a relationship with the orphanage gets kickbacks for trying those medicines on you. And so I remember we were on very, very, very strong medications.
Goodness. Did you see other kids around you sort of changing or having weird side effects? Could you tell like, oh, they're on a triple dose of this or whatever?
Yeah, I knew a couple of the kids that they were trying like bipolar medicines on and like the harder medicines on. And I remember their personality changing a lot while they were on the medicine. And I didn't really understand. I knew everybody was on medicine, right? You line up and the nurse or the staff just gives you a handful of pills. I remember some of the medicine that I was on. I remember my roommate, them trying like bipolar medicine and it being so strong that she would be like drooling and falling asleep and unable to stand. And, I still know her and she's not bipolar. I'm trying to think if anybody there actually needed those medications. And I would say no. You would think we were like just awful people who but we were just orphans. We hadn't done crimes or anything. We weren't in there. I didn't skip school and like hurt people. I was there because I had no parents, and a lot of the other people were there for similar reasons. And I'm not going to say that none of us had issues. We were lonely, maybe we're sad. It's hard not to have a family. But I don't think any of us were like schizophrenic. And so none of us should have been on medicines like that.
So essentially, certain states, obviously the one we're in now, you and I in Texas, look at the foster system as sort of a lab for big pharma to test medicine to, right?
I think so.
You lived it.
I'm sorry?
I said, well, you lived it.
No, I mean, obviously they're doing it, but I'm wondering how they're getting their research back. Are they just giving it to us and seeing what happens? Because a lot of those medicines, the long-term side effects weren't known at the time, right?
Right.
And now you're finding out. We're seeing, foster kids who are growing up and having issues having children or having issues with certain disorders, and I feel like the Carol Keaton Strayhorn thing that I told you about, a lot of that follows monies from Psychotropic or from these pharmacy companies to the doctors and through the RTC. And it's a lot of money. Like, I mean, were you able to look through that a little bit?
Yes. Yeah, I'm going to link to that. Say the name of that study because I want to link to it or something. I think it's Carol Keaton Strayhorn's. Yes.
She researched where the money is, where the medications are for foster kids. And I'm surprised it didn't get more notice. I think it's awful. It's all written there.
Yes. Yeah. I'm not too surprised it didn't get more noticed. Those sort of things seem to get covered up and swept under the rug. So it's like you guys were locked down. You couldn't go anywhere. They pretend that you have this awful sickness that you don't have, and a big pharma company gets to push out some experimental medication on you and give it to you.
And they get to try experimental therapies on us.
Yes.
Everyone just gets kind of just play with us, I guess.
Yes. It's like in 2020, we all became foster kids.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It's so true.
So I want to get into I'll lead it into this discussion in sort of a fun way. I know for a fact that you're not a fan of like these new, I call it pop psychology, buzz phrases and buzzwords like that. Give examples of that so the audience knows what we're talking about.
Well, because they tried all these therapies on us and they diagnosed us with all these bizarre things, I have a distrust for and a respect at the same time for these diagnoses. And, everyone is calling everyone else narcissist, and everyone's saying, what kind of attachment style do you have? And I'm an integrated person and all this. I'm hearing everyone say it. It's very popular now, but it's something I grew up with hearing every single day. And I hate it.
The term you mentioned, narcissist, gets thrown around all of the time. There's another funny meme with like this girl covered in tattoos, looking hip and angry, and it says something like my ex is a narcissist. It's so hard for us empaths to get along with them, or something like that. Because you hear it's such how was that term first introduced to you?
Every time I hear it, like I've been working so hard to work on not being triggered from these words, but you just said empath and I cringed.
Yes.
Like internally, I can't stand any of these. And I just, I keep thinking about it because it's something I personally feel called to kind of address. But so I was introduced from that, my lovely therapist who had me crawl underneath her desk. She's a winner. She's the one who introduced me to the word narcissist. And when she did, it did kind of injure me. She basically introduced me to the word, and what she told me was, she kind of implied that I could be a narcissist. And she said, and so I was like, well, what is it? Because I already had this thing in me. I knew that I hadn't been adopted. And when you don't have a family, children just automatically will already blame themselves for that. Right. And so I already felt like maybe there's something wrong with me that people don't want me. Maybe God created me to be a person who something's wrong with me. And that's kind of like my cross to bear in life, is just to be unwanted in this life. And so when she told me I was a narcissist, I was trying to look for a reason anyways. And so she gave it to me, right? She suggested I could be a narcissist. And so I remember asking her, what is that? And she said, it's someone who, if someone's drowning, before they jump in and help or anything, first they're going to think like, oh my gosh, my hair is going to get wet. How will I look? Who's around? Who will see me? Will I be a hero? Like, they will stop and they really think about themselves. And I was kind of mortified with that idea. And then she just told me bluntly, it's someone who is unable to love or be loved. And I remember hearing that and thinking like, that feels like torture. Can you imagine a God that makes a human being who's meant to be loved, but here they're in a world and they're unable to do that? Not only can they not love people ever, and you can't heal it, apparently. That's what she was telling me. It's incurable. So you can never be loved, and you can't love others either. So that was the first time I heard that. And then I hear it all the time. I hear it inside the Orthodox Church, which drives me mad because it's so foreign to the way that an Orthodox person thinks that I'm surprised. But no, I mean, have you heard it in your parish?
No, not in my parish.
Oh,
I just hear it more so. It's one of those trendy words where I think it's sort of like the word racist. It's like, what does that mean now? People have misused it so many times. There's an old essay, and I think it's by Orwell, called "Meaningless Words," and certain power dynamics within politics will attempt to make a word useless on purpose. And so obviously like racist now would be a useless word. Anti-Semitism is becoming one. But it seems almost like narcissist is one, because I see it thrown around and I'm like, I know it's more common. Father Turbo himself said, because of the lack of shame, like it's become, no pun, well, kind of pun intended, shameful to shame people. And so shame is how you conquer or alleviate narcissistic tendencies. Real shame, if you feel real shame. And so we've sort of pushed that away. No, you can't make someone feel shameful. That's not right. Everyone's special. And so it has slowly over the decades created more narcissists. But I also see it used, it's just like, my ex was a narcissist. It's like, he ghosted me. It's like, maybe that's on you. But the irony is, like, you're saying someone else is a narcissist because they didn't like me or they were this to me. And it's like still like a lot of focus on like, well, I didn't do anything wrong. So there's some irony.
It's a way to avoid accountability for our lives. If someone else is the boogeyman, it's not my fault. I have nothing I need to do, right? Because they're a narcissist. But no, a narcissist. Okay, so what would they do? What is the worst thing a narcissist does to another person? I'm asking.
Well, I suppose it's so specific to each relationship. I don't know. I suppose not love them, if it would be technical. That would be a bad thing, right? If they really are incapable of love.
So they just go around not loving people.
I don't know. Yeah.
How dare they? When you're around me, you better love me.
Yes.
But who am I to ask that from someone else? Who am I to make that a requirement from someone else? Right? Is that not narcissistic? So I have to go up to someone else, and let's say you're my boyfriend and you decide you don't love me because you're a narcissist. I mean, should I force you to? I mean, we're free, right? I feel like as a Christian, we are called to love other people and not worry about whether or not they love us or not. So why are we obsessed with narcissist? You know, it's not our calling to figure out who can love us, right? Our calling is to love others. I don't know.
No, that's I'm with you. I cannot disagree with you. And did you walk away from that meeting, I suppose, with this lady? Like, geez, that's what's wrong with me, I suppose. Were there other encounters where y'all did she keep discussing this buzzword?
So I had something that I think a lot of the orphans didn't have, is I really had a relationship with God. And although I wasn't Orthodox, God kind of had me under his wing intimately from my first memory. I always was talking to God internally. And it's funny because I lived a very Orthodox life, even though I wasn't Orthodox. So I grew up and I was exposed to the Protestant church. And there's this jingle in the Protestant church called Jesus Loves Me. Do you know that song?
I do know that one. Yes. The Bible tells me so.
Jesus loves me, this I know, for the Bible tells me so. Little ones to him belong. They are weak, but he is strong. And I would say that over and over and over if I was scared of the dark, if I was happy, just constantly in my head, the way an Orthodox person says the Jesus prayer. And the Holy Spirit would like move inside me and warm me up and help me and kind of like guide me. And so I remember when she called me a narcissist, I remember praying about it internally. And I remember having my feelings hurt, like believing, like, God, why would you make me? Like, And I remember him comforting me, but not clarifying it either, you know. And it just made me want to love more. It wasn't like I thought, oh my God, I'm a narcissist, I'm going to go kill myself. It was like, okay, I'm a narcissist. Now what? What am I going to do?
As you guys know, the team at Podsworth Media has worked with me for a long time producing this show. A big part of that over the past couple of years has been them using their Podsworth app to make the audio sound clean, level, professional, even when the raw recordings were super sketchy, which mine can be sometimes. In fact, this one that you're listening to right now is super sketchy. I took this microphone sock off here just to show you how crappy it will sound. Except when they put it through the Podsworth app, it sounds beautiful. I've got this annoying white noise maker going on. It's driving me crazy. If you want to hear how bad this recording is before they put it through the Podsworth app, you can hear the full before and after demo for yourself at the link in the description. The app recently got a huge update and it's better than ever. So good, in fact, that it can take almost any atrocious voice recordings and make it sound great. They remove background noise. It cuts down on plosives. It fixes clipping when your gain is too high. It reduces reverb, removes clicks, pops, improves tone, and the level of the dialogue is even and consistent. So if I move around like this, which I sometimes do when I get excited, it'll fix all of that. It's super simple. Go to podsworth.com, click Get Started. Drag and drop your audio files or open them right from your smartphone browser. Customize your settings if you want, but honestly, the default works great for most podcast recordings. Here's the cool part. Enter code BUCK50, BUCK50 for 50% off of your first order. No account needed, just email and payment. Then you get the download link in your inbox with your cleaned up files. It's perfect for podcasts, YouTube videos, sermons, homilies, audiobooks, anything like that you want to sound legitimate and professional. Remember, use code BUCK50 for half off your first order. And you're supporting this show. Thank you, guys. Okay, after all this life experience, the treatments, the hypnotizing, crawling out from under her desk, and maybe experiencing legitimate therapy as well. This is very broad. Is therapy, mental therapy, a net negative or a net positive?
I think, what do the saints say? To the pure, all things are pure. There's not really, evil, and what do they say? Evil is the shadow, right? It's not real. And so therapy was meant to be something that's used for good. I think we're misusing it. I think we're playing with it. And I think it's being used harmfully. And I think we have a responsibility to each other to consider how we're interacting with each other a little bit more. I can't say that therapy is a bad thing because I have a disabled son. And I was so against therapy because I had saw all these awful things that had happened to these children. And I saw it being abused on us. And I saw the state be awful parents to us, right? And so I remember in my early 20s, I went around and I spoke at these conferences against medication and trying to let everyone know what was going on, that we were being experimented on with medications and these therapies, and that it was inhumane. And I even, I even remember going to Washington to get bills passed, and I was a lobbyist. And then I had my son, and my son was severely disabled, and I didn't want him to be on medication. I remember him needing it, and I remember him needing therapy, and I saw the effects of a good therapist.
Okay.
I saw someone come into our home with love and compassion and gentleness and help me and teach me how to engage with my son in a healthy way and help keep him safe. And I saw good come out of it. So I believe that therapy, it can be used for good, and it's meant to be used for good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't believe in narcissism the way that they defined it, though. I don't believe a human being is incapable of love. I can't believe that.
Right. I suppose it wouldn't be an Orthodox view. Speaking of Orthodox, so you weren't Orthodox. Certainly, it's probably not something that's prevalent in the Texas foster care system. Maybe it's going to be. That'd be nice. But how did you find it?
You won't believe it. I met a monk in the mental hospital. So, isn't that funny? Isn't it
Yes.
funny, these God winks? But when I turned 18, my first real job was working in a mental hospital as a staff member. And I worked on the deaf ward with criminals who were schizophrenic and bipolar, legitimately, And there was a monk that worked in the front office. And I had seen him, but I only knew about Catholicism. So I kind of was weary of him because I knew for sure that I didn't want to be Roman Catholic. There was something that felt off about that. And I remember he had the ashes one day, and he came by and he's like, "Yeah, you want ashes?" And I was like, "No, I don't believe in that." And he goes, "Me neither." And I was like, "But why do you have it on you?" And he's like, "I don't know. I love crosses." Put a cross on me. And he was a very sweet person, and we just became best friends. And the first saint that he introduced me to was Saint John Maximovich. And John Maximovich, he saved orphans.
Yes.
He
How
brought all
special.
these beautiful Chinese orphans over here, and he became a father to them. And he taught other people to be mothers to them in the parish to help raise these children. And he sacrificed and loved them and cared about them. And he had a disability. And, it's funny because the cursed root icon actually healed him. And that icon actually came to my disabled son's NICU bed and healed my son too. I mean, not 100%, but
Yes.
I think it saved his life. I think my son had a foot out the door, and by that icon came to my son's bed, and he started getting better. And anyway, so then I became Orthodox. I fell in love with the church, and I knew that it was, that's where God was, and that was the path to learning how to love.
What did you find there that you didn't have as a youth?
What did I find in the Orthodox Church? Okay, so I always had God, right? My whole entire life, God kind of babied me. Maybe the world didn't baby me. I grew up being unwanted and abused in different ways, especially by staff mentally. But God was close to me. He always. I remember being able to pray to God and be like, today my mind just can't take one more insult from staff. I just can't bear it. And that day, it's like, even if I deserved it and I actually had done something wrong, everybody would just forget and be nice to me. And I would be very aware that God had answered my prayers. And the Holy Spirit would warm me. I don't think I would have survived staring at walls. Another thing they did, they kept me in a closet. Like the longest time they kept me in there was, I think, 6 weeks. I had a special structure where no one could make eye contact. There was all these therapies and all these special structures. And one of mine was no one was allowed to look at me or talk to me. And I don't think I would have survived that had God not been internally talking to me. And
Nice.
I had this very vibrant spiritual life and a very prayerful relationship with God. So I always had God. What I didn't have is people. I didn't have a family. And I had developed, I think, because of the isolation, a fear of people. So when I met this Orthodox monk and I became baptized, my first call was to learn how to deal with God's people, and it was scary for me, but a beautiful thing, right?
Yes, it is a beautiful thing. And that was that's been quite some time that you've been in the church.
It's been almost 20 years, maybe a little more.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, and here you are. It's looking back on your life and to all the way up to where you're at now. Give us like 2 lessons to leave everyone with that you've learned or that you would like other people to grasp.
I'm reading that book. I mentioned it to you, From Object to Icon. And one of the things it's talking about is taking off our mask and being fully present in the moment and being who we are. That means sinner that you are, offering the good that you have and the bad that you are, because we're all a mix, but whoever we are, to be fully alive and fully who you are, to fully love and fully live, you have to offer all of yourself. So I would say that's where we need to start. Not like a Protestant who offers 15% of themselves. No, we offer 100% of ourselves to the present moment. And I think that's what we're called for. And in that moment, with that offering, beauty just will give birth. In your life, towards other people, you will be able to have whatever goal you have. Like for me, my goal is to love God and to love other people. Sometimes people's goal maybe is to be happy, but that's also where you find happiness.
Yes,
just being in the moment, being authentic, and don't give up. One day at a time. Keep going. I guess those are the 2 things.
I will say most of us don't have the let's say constitution and mental fortitude to sit in a closed up structure for 6 weeks without having someone look at us or talk to us. So you have been through a lot. It's impressive, and I'm glad you shared some of it with us on this episode. Nina, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
All right, I hope you guys enjoyed that discussion with Miss Nina. And as for me, keep me in your prayers, if you will. Again, traveling to Russia, our friend of the show, Conrad from the World War Now podcast will be with me as well. And maybe if we can, maybe I'll do a check-in from Russia. I don't know how that's going to work, but certainly I will update you when I get back on the things that we saw. Next week, I've got we can call it a best of episode. It is an episode with Dr. Naomi Wolf, recorded I should have looked at that, but it was over a year ago. The thing is, YouTube did not like it. It was taken down within an hour of posting. So next week, let's test the waters and see where we're at with YouTube when I bring you Dr. Naomi Wolf. She's a Jewish liberal author, journalist, talking head in the media class, been around for a long time, and her whole worldview changed over 2020, 2021, 2022, as many of our worldviews did. But it's a powerful discussion that we have. And again, hopefully the censorship regime, we're going to test the waters. Hopefully that can stay up on YouTube. So until next week, you guys have a good one. Like the sound of the Counterflow Podcast? Our audio production is provided by Podsworth Media. Check them out at podsworth.com.